touching and very beautiful. Thank you very much. Just in the interest of time, and because our MP, Iqra Khalid, has a flight to catch, I've moved the speakers around. I'm going to ask Iqra Khalid to speak next. And she's the Member of Parliament for the riding of Mississauga, Erin Mills. She's a young Pakistani Canadian. She immigrated to Canada from England in the late 1990s, and she obtained her bachelor's degree from York University with a double major in criminology and professional writing, and her JD from Western Michigan University Cooley Law School. And she's one of 2 Pakistani Canadian women sitting in the House of Commons, and the only woman on the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. So proud of you, Iqra. Even before launching her political career, she implemented positive change through her leadership in the community. She's a former president of the Pakistani Student Association, a former media relations ambassador for York University, student, alumni, and communications coordinator for the Council for the Advancement of Muslim Professionals. MP Khalid believes in a united Canada that recognizes and preserves unique differences. Growing up as an immigrant, she learned the value of diversity and inclusiveness early on, and she hopes to preserve this in her growing Erin Mills riding, and subsequently across the nation and across the globe, hopefully. So welcome, Iqra.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I do want to try that again. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you. I do like to have a little interaction, and I like to know that my audience is listening, because when we share words that we've heard today from some very distinguished people, they have a lot of impact. They help us understand where we come from, what one person is feeling, what one person is thinking. And when we communicate our words, when we communicate our thoughts with each other, we realize that we're really not as different as we seem to think we are. And today we heard some really powerful words, so I really want to thank our esteemed speakers on their great words and their great stories that they shared with us today. I also want to thank our organizers for hosting this great event. I think that it's very important that we continue this dialogue, and I think that our speakers of today have outlined why that is so necessary. I'd also like to thank all of you in being part of that dialogue, because it's when we engage, when we come out, and we listen to what other people have to say, when we have our minds open, we can continue to fill our cup. Thank you. So I want to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about Motion 103 and what happened in the country after I tabled it. So the motion, it's a motion, not a bill. The motion was, I began drafting it in late October, early November. And we consulted a number of different community organizations and putting together the wording, etc. And then one of the big inspirations was a call to action by e-petition 411, which was an e-petition signed by about 70,000 to condemn Islamophobia and to recognize that Muslims do not represent terrorist actions that are occurring in parts of the world. Seemed pretty straightforward. I took that e-petition as a call to action for myself, and I thought, I will do something about this. Because it's not just the Muslim community that is impacted by systemic racism or religious discrimination. It is all communities, and unfortunately, hate does not discriminate. You know, statistics, hate crime statistics show that the Jewish community is in fact the most discriminated against community here in Canada. Statistics also show that hate crimes against the Muslim community have doubled in the past number of years. I took those statistics and I thought, we need to be proactive. Race is an issue in Canada. When we talk about our values as Canadians, to be that of acceptance, of generosity, to be diverse and to embrace our diversity, to be multicultural and use our diversity as our strengths here in Canada, then we need to continue to build upon those strengths. We need to continue to ensure that we as Canadians are working together and are making sure that we are progressing together. We all have lessons to learn from one another. And it's with that intention that I tabled this motion. The motion calls on our federal government to recognize that yes, there is a need to quell hatred and fear here in Canada, and that there is a rising climate, and our media and our statistics do show it. The motion also calls upon the government to condemn all forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination, including Islamophobia. And then it also, the meat of the motion, calls on the government to begin a study, to collect evidence, to understand what our race and discrimination problem is here in Canada. To what extent is that problem? Because we don't have, I would say, sufficient statistics or data. I'm a big believer in evidence-based policy making. And I think that this motion is an opportunity to collect evidence, to really understand how we can continue to build bridges amongst Canadians, and how we can continue to use our diversity as our strength.